Hey you geeks! I've finally broken down, submitted to peer pressure, and read the Stormlight Archive. This video is about why I don't usually commit to series, especially half-finished ones that won't be finished until the 2040s. For I don't handle suspense well. I've been holding off on this series because I am a GDI who really did not want to jump off the bridge like everyone else. And now I'm hooked. This is a rare event indeed. Of all the long series I've started, those that are longer than trilogies, I finished 2. The first barely counts. It's Twilight. I read all 4 books, waited for their releases like all the other insane twihards at the time. I was Team Edward and enjoyed the furious frenzy of the fandom. The second was Harry Potter. I started that series at book 3 in 3rd grade because it made sense at the time. Then I went back and read books 1 and 2, then 4. I had to stop because my parents were unsure if Harry Potter was evil sorcery or not, and book 5 wasn't released yet. Because of my parents' concern about the evilness of Harry Potter, they ordered that I had to read all of the Chronicles of Narnia or all of the Lord of the Rings. Good Christian fantasy, before continuing the potentially blasphemous series. Those of you keeping track will no doubt wonder that if I have finished Harry Potter, why don't I count another series? Well, it's not because I read Lord of the Rings. Technically, I hadn't finished that series until December of last year. I had only read parts before, mostly out of order. No, the reason is because I chose the Chronicles of Narnia and never finished The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. And I lied to my parents about it. Whether this is an incitement against Harry Potter as encouraging bad behavior in children, or just me being a little rebel, I'll leave for your musing. There are 2 reasons why I quit series. The first is I lose focus, or the second, I think that the author has lost focus. When reading series, I have to find coping mechanisms to deal with my constant state of stress over the fate of fictional characters as I wait between books. If a series takes too long in reaching its goals, then I lose focus, purging the series from my thought to maintain sanity. Series taking too long is a mix of length of time between book releases and the payoff of every book. I have no patience for series that tease a big battle to determine the fate of the world and never deliver. Such as A Song of Ice and Fire, the details of Brienne's search for Arya in The Feast of Crows is utterly pointless and dull. Also, I grew annoyed with Sherwood Smith's Inda series when it got lost at sea. Lastly, I lost focus in the Inheritance cycle because the books were full of pointless details, and by book 2, I was perfectly aware that the series would end with Aragon winning, then going off on a journey. Great! Now I moved on with my life. The second reason is when I think an author has lost focus, or rather the author chooses to focus on plot elements that I do not care for. The Chronicles of Narnia falls into this category for me. I got invested in the merry land of talking animals, only for Lewis to spend an entire book at sea, each chapter bringing on new islands with new problems and yet no cohesive storyline. Why bother? The Green Rider series also went off the rails for me when it diverted from a rustic quest against dark forces to court intrigue and a love triangle, especially when the linchpin of the love triangle, the king, was a paternal figure to the protagonist in the first book, then a romantic interest to her in the second. Ew. Now, the Stormlight Archive. Its strong fandom will no doubt channel my obsession into healthy coping mechanisms as we wait for the eventual conclusion. I don't fear that the series will lose direction. Sanderson is far too organized for that. But I do fear that Sanderson will shift focus away from what I like. Now that I'm halfway through Oathbringer, I know that this series goes far beyond the chasms, plateaus, and clear objectives that grounded the first 2 books. Not that this is a bad thing. The characters remain thoroughly relatable and are great quarantine companions. But if any of the Knights Radiant are going to die in the middle of the series and leave me out in the Sea of Spheres, I would have to leave the series for my own sanity. Sanderson, I am putting a good deal of trust in you that my sleepless nights, distraction from work, and long-term investment will all be worth it. Please do not let me down.